Listen carefully. This is where your life changes. Your mind is not your enemy. Your mind is your greatest weapon, but only if you learn how to command it. An unbreakable positive mental attitude is not something you wait for. It is something you build moment by moment, decision by decision. When life hits you, and it will, you don't collapse, you rise. Not because it's easy, but because you've trained yourself to respond with power. You must take radical responsibility. No blaming your past, no pointing fingers. The moment you say, "This is on me," you take your power back. And power is where transformation begins. Discipline your thoughts. Every negative belief that whispers you can't must be challenged. Not tomorrow. Now, replace it with truth. Replace it with strength. Your mind listens to what you repeat, so speak victory even when you feel defeat. You will feel fear. You will feel doubt. But here's the difference. You don't obey those feelings. You lead them. You decide that no emotion is stronger than your purpose. And let me tell you something. Purpose changes everything. When your mind is locked onto something greater than your fears, distractions lose their power. Excuses disappear. You become focused, relentless, unstoppable. Pressure, good. Pressure reveals who you are. It's not there to break you. It's there to build you. Every setback is training. Every failure is feedback. Every hard moment is shaping a stronger, sharper, more powerful version of you. But you must condition your mind daily, not sometimes, not when you feel like it, every single day. Feed it strength, feed it belief, feed it vision, because whatever you feed grows and whatever you starve dies. So today, make a decision, not a weak decision, a committed one. You will not allow negativity to control your life. You will not allow fear to define your future. You will not break no matter what comes your way, because from this moment forward, you are building a mindset that cannot be shaken, cannot be defeated, and cannot be broken. And when your mind becomes unbreakable, your life becomes unstoppable. Radical responsibility starts the moment you stop pointing outward and start looking inward with absolute honesty. Because the truth is simple and powerful. Everything changes when you decide that your life is your responsibility. Your mindset is your responsibility. Your energy is your responsibility. And no matter what has happened, no matter who hurt you, no matter what you lost or where you started, you take full ownership of what happens next. Because that is where your power lives. And the second you embrace that power, excuses lose their grip, blame loses its voice. And you step into a level of control that most people never experience, because they spend their lives waiting for the right moment, waiting for someone to save them, waiting for conditions to be perfect. But you are not waiting anymore. You are deciding. You are choosing to rise. You are choosing to think differently, to act differently, to respond with strength instead of weakness. Because radical responsibility demands that you no longer give your emotions permission to run your life without direction. It demands that you become the leader of your own mind, the authority over your own reactions, the architect of your own future. And that means when something goes wrong, you don't collapse into excuses. You ask better questions. You ask, what can I learn? How can I grow? How can I use this? Because every situation, no matter how painful, carries a lesson. And those who rise are the ones who take that lesson and turn it into leverage, turn it into fuel, turn it into forward motion. And this is not about perfection. This is about ownership. Because you will make mistakes. You will face moments where you doubt yourself, where fear creeps in and tries to convince you to step back, to play small, to give up. But radical responsibility means you recognize that voice and you do not obey it. You acknowledge it, and then you move forward anyway. Because you understand that your thoughts are not commands, they are suggestions. And you have the power to accept or reject them. And when you begin to reject everything that weakens you and accept everything that strengthens you, your entire internal world shifts. And when your internal world shifts, your external world has no choice but to follow, because your actions begin to align with your strength. Your discipline becomes sharper, your focus becomes clearer, and your standards rise to a level where mediocrity is no longer acceptable, because you know what you are capable of, and you refuse to settle for anything less. And this is where true transformation begins, not in comfort, not in ease, but in the decision to take ownership when it's hard, when it's uncomfortable, when it forces you to confront the parts of yourself you've been avoiding, because growth lives on the other side of that discomfort. And radical responsibility pushes you to face it head on, to stop running, to stop hiding, to stand in the truth of who you are and who you can become. And once you do that, there is no going back, because you realize that every thought you think, every word you speak, every action you take is shaping your reality in real time. And that realization changes everything. It makes you more intentional, more aware, more focused, because you understand that you are not a victim of circumstances. You are a creator of outcomes. And creators do not wait. They act, they build, they adjust, they keep moving forward no matter what stands in their way. And that is the energy you bring into your life when you embrace radical responsibility, an energy that is relentless, disciplined, and unstoppable, an energy that refuses to break under pressure because it knows that pressure is not the enemy, pressure is the process. Pressure is what shapes strength, what builds resilience, what forges a mindset that cannot be shaken. And as you continue to choose responsibility over excuses, discipline over comfort, growth over fear, you begin to see a version of yourself that you once thought was out of reach, a version that is focused, powerful, and in control, a version that no longer reacts to life but leads it with intention and purpose, a version that understands that every single day is an opportunity to become stronger, sharper, and more aligned with the life you are building. And that is the power of radical responsibility. It puts you in the driver's seat. It gives you control over your direction, your mindset, your future, and once you truly step into that role, once you fully accept that everything starts and ends with you, there is nothing left to fear and nothing left to blame, only action, only growth, only forward movement, only the continuous decision to rise above every limitation and become everything you were meant to be. Mental discipline starts the moment you realize that your mind does not get to decide your direction. You do. And from that moment forward, you stop negotiating with weakness and start commanding your thoughts with authority, because an undisciplined mind will drag you into distraction, doubt, and delay, but a disciplined mind will push you toward clarity, focus, and relentless action. And the difference between those two states is not talent, not luck, not circumstance. It is control. It is the daily decision to train your thinking the same way you would train your body, with repetition, with intensity, with consistency, because your mind follows patterns. And if you allow negative patterns to repeat unchecked, they become your reality, they shape your beliefs, they limit your actions. But when you interrupt those patterns and replace them with intentional, powerful thoughts, you begin to reshape your entire internal system. And that is where mental discipline takes root, not in motivation, not in temporary bursts of energy, but in structure, in our routine, in the refusal to let your mind wander into spaces that weaken you. Because every thought carries energy, and every thought either builds you or breaks you. And once you understand that, you become selective, you become intentional. You stop entertaining thoughts that drain your confidence. You stop replaying failures as if they define you, and instead you choose to focus on what strengthens you, what pushes you forward, what aligns with the person you are becoming. And this is not easy, because your mind will resist. It will try to pull you back into old habits, into comfort zones, into familiar patterns of doubt and fear. But mental discipline means you expect that resistance and you move forward anyway. You do not wait to feel ready. You do not wait to feel confident. You act in spite of how you feel, because discipline is not driven by emotion. It is driven by decision. And the more you act on that decision, the stronger it becomes. The more control you gain, the more stable your mindset becomes under pressure. And pressure is where discipline is tested. Because when things get hard, when challenges arise, when everything around you feels uncertain, your mind will look for the easiest escape. It will suggest quitting. It will suggest avoiding. It will suggest settling. But mental discipline rejects those suggestions. It stands firm. It stays focused. It keeps moving forward with precision and purpose because it has been trained to do so. And that training happens daily, in the small moments, in the choices you make when no one is watching, when you choose to focus instead of scroll, when you choose to work instead of procrastinate, when you choose to think with strength instead of sinking into negativity. Those moments build momentum, and that momentum builds identity. And that identity becomes someone who is in control, someone who does not break under pressure, someone who does not get easily distracted or emotionally overwhelmed, because their mind has been conditioned to stay aligned with their goals no matter what is happening externally. And this is where true power lies, not in avoiding challenges, but in facing them with a mind that is steady, focused, and disciplined. A mind that does not panic, does not overreact, does not lose direction, because it knows exactly what it is doing and why it is doing it. And that clarity creates confidence, not the loud, temporary kind, but a deep, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself, that you can trust your decisions, that you can push through discomfort and still perform at a high level. And that trust is built through discipline, through showing up every day, through doing what needs to be done even when you do not feel like it, even when it is inconvenient, even when it is difficult. Because mental discipline is not about doing what is easy. It is about doing what is necessary. It is about staying committed to your standards regardless of your mood, regardless of your circumstances. And when you operate at that level, your results begin to reflect it, your focus sharpens, your productivity increases, your resilience strengthens, and you begin to separate yourself from those who are controlled by their emotions and their environment, because you are no longer reacting, you are responding with intention, with control, with discipline. And that changes everything. It changes how you handle setbacks, how you approach challenges, how you see yourself and your capabilities, because you are no longer at the mercy of your thoughts. You are directing them, shaping them, using them as tools to build the life you want. And as you continue to train your mind, to challenge it, to push it beyond its comfort zone, you begin to unlock levels of focus and strength that most people never reach because they never take control. They never develop the discipline required to master their own thinking. But you are not most people. You are building a mind, that is sharp, resilient, and unbreakable. A mind that does not fold under pressure, does not give in to doubt, does not lose sight of its purpose. And that kind of mind becomes your greatest advantage, your strongest asset, your foundation for everything you want to achieve. Because when your mind is disciplined, your actions are precise, your energy is directed, your progress is inevitable, and you move through life with a level of control, focus, and determination that cannot be shaken, cannot be distracted, cannot be stopped. Emotional mastery starts the moment you realize that feeling something does not mean you have to become it. And from that moment forward, you stop surrendering your power to every wave of emotion and start standing firm in control of your internal state. Because emotions are real, they are intense, they are persuasive, but they are not in charge unless you allow them to be. And most people live their lives reacting instantly to how they feel, rising when they feel motivated, collapsing when they feel discouraged, speaking when they feel angry, withdrawing when they feel afraid, and in doing so they give their emotions authority over their actions, over their decisions, over their entire direction. But emotional mastery demands something different. It demands awareness. It demands that you pause in the middle of intensity and recognize that you are the observer of your emotions, not the servant of them. And in that space between feeling and reaction lies your power, because that is where you decide who you are going to be, regardless of what you feel. That is where you choose discipline over impulse, clarity over chaos, strength over surrender. And this is not about suppressing what you feel. It is about understanding it. It is about allowing emotions to pass through you without letting them take control of you, because every emotion carries information, but it does not carry authority. And once you understand that distinction, everything begins to shift. You no longer fear your emotions. You no longer run from discomfort. You face it, you study it, you learn from it, and then you move forward with intention. Because emotional mastery is not about avoiding pain. It is about becoming stronger than it. It is about holding your ground when everything inside you wants to react. When anger rises and demands expression, when fear whispers that you should step back, when doubt tries to convince you that you are not enough. And in those moments, you do not deny what you feel, but you refuse to let it dictate your behavior. You breathe, you center yourself, and you choose your response with precision, because you understand that every reaction shapes your identity. Every response builds your character, and you are not here to be controlled by temporary feelings. You are here to build something lasting, something powerful, something unshakable, and that requires control. That requires discipline at the emotional level, because the truth is your greatest battles are not external, they are internal. They happen in the silent moments when no one is watching, when you are faced with frustration, with disappointment, with pressure, and your mind begins to spiral. Your emotions begin to intensify, and everything in you wants to give in, to lash out, to shut down, to escape. But emotional mastery steps in and says, no, you do not break here, you do not lose control here, you rise here, you stabilize here, you take ownership of your state, and you direct it toward strength, because your emotions are energy, and energy can either be wasted or it can be channeled. And those who master themselves learn how to channel it, how to take anger and turn it into focus, how to take fear and turn it into preparation, how to take pain and turn it into purpose. And that transformation is what separates those who stay stuck from those who move forward. Because instead of being overwhelmed by what they feel, they use it as fuel. They use it as a driving force that pushes them to grow, to improve, to become more than they were yesterday. And this is a daily practice. It is not something that happens once. It is something you commit to every single day, in every situation, in every interaction. You remain aware, you remain present, you remain in control, because you know that losing control, even for a moment, can cost you clarity, can cost you progress, can cost you the version of yourself you are working to build, and so you train yourself to stay grounded, to stay centered, to stay focused no matter what is happening around you. And that consistency builds strength. It builds stability. It builds a mindset that does not get easily shaken because it has learned how to handle pressure from within. And when you can handle pressure from within, nothing outside of you can truly break you because you are no longer reacting blindly. You are responding with intention, with awareness, with control. And that changes the way you move through life. It changes the way you handle challenges, the way you communicate, the way you lead yourself and others, because you are no longer driven by impulse. You are guided by purpose, and that purpose keeps you steady, keeps you aligned, keeps you moving forward regardless of what emotions arise. And as you continue to develop this level of control, this level of awareness, you begin to notice something powerful. Your emotions no longer feel like obstacles. They feel like tools. They become signals that you can interpret and direct rather than forces that overwhelm you. And that shift gives you an advantage that most people never develop, because they never learn how to separate what they feel from what they choose. But you are building that separation. You are strengthening that control. You are becoming someone who can feel deeply without losing direction, someone who can face intensity without losing stability, someone who can experience everything and still move forward with clarity, focus, and strength. Because emotional mastery is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming unstoppable in the presence of emotion. It is about holding your power no matter what you feel, no matter what you face, no matter what tries to shake you, and continuing to move forward with purpose, discipline, and control. Purpose-driven thinking starts the moment you stop asking what you feel like doing and start asking what your mission demands from you. Because the truth is simple. When your mind is guided by purpose, distractions lose their power, confusion fades, and your actions become sharp, intentional, and unstoppable. And most people drift through life reacting to circumstances, chasing temporary feelings, moving without direction. But the moment you anchor your thinking to a clear purpose, everything changes. Your decisions become easier, your focus becomes stronger, and your energy stops being wasted on things that do not matter, because purpose acts like a filter. It eliminates the unnecessary. It silences the noise. It forces you to align every thought, every action, every habit with something greater than comfort, greater than fear, greater than convenience. And that alignment creates power, because now you are no longer operating randomly. You are operating with intention, with clarity, with a deep understanding of where you are going and why it matters. And when your why is strong enough, your mind stops negotiating with excuses. It stops looking for shortcuts. It stops giving energy to doubt, because it knows that every second wasted is a step away from the life you are building. And purpose-driven thinking demands that you respect your time, that you protect your focus, that you guard your mental space from anything that weakens your direction, because your mind is your most valuable asset. And where you direct it determines everything. And this is where discipline meets vision. Because it is not enough to have a purpose, you must think in alignment with it consistently. You must train your mind to return to it daily, to remind yourself of it when distractions appear, when challenges arise, when motivation fades. Because there will be moments when you do not feel like continuing, moments when the path feels difficult, uncertain, overwhelming. But purpose does not depend on your mood. It does not disappear when things get hard. It becomes even more important. It becomes the anchor that keeps you grounded when everything else feels unstable. And in those moments, purpose-driven thinking pushes you forward. It tells you to stay focused, to stay committed, to keep moving regardless of how you feel, because you understand that your feelings are temporary, but your mission is long-term, and that perspective changes how you handle everything. It changes how you respond to setbacks, because instead of seeing them as reasons to stop, you see them as part of the process, as necessary steps on the path to something greater, and that mindset builds resilience. It builds consistency. It builds a level of mental strength that allows you to keep going when others quit, because they are driven by comfort while you are driven by purpose, and purpose creates endurance, it creates patience, it creates the ability to stay focused over long periods of time without losing direction, because you are not easily distracted by what is easy or what is popular. You are focused on what is meaningful, what is necessary, what is aligned with your vision, and this is where you separate yourself. This is where you begin to operate at a different level, because while others are reacting, you are directing. While others are hesitating, you are executing. While others are uncertain, you are clear. And that clarity comes from constantly feeding your mind with your purpose, constantly reminding yourself of what you are building, who you are becoming, and why it matters. Because the more you reinforce that purpose, the stronger it becomes, the more it influences your thinking, the more it shapes your actions, and over time it becomes automatic. It becomes a part of who you are, a guiding force that directs your every move, your every decision, your every thought. And when you reach that level, you no longer rely on external motivation. You no longer wait for inspiration, because your purpose is your motivation, your purpose is your fuel. Your purpose is the reason you show up every single day with focus and determination, and that consistency builds momentum. It builds progress. It builds results that reflect the strength of your mindset, because you are no longer scattered. You are aligned, you are focused, you are intentional, and that level of thinking creates a life that is not left to chance, a life that is designed, built, and driven by a clear vision. And as you continue to strengthen this way of thinking, to align your mind more deeply with your purpose, you begin to eliminate everything that does not serve it. You become more selective with your time, your energy, your attention, because you understand that every resource you have must be directed toward your mission. And that level of awareness keeps you sharp, keeps you focused, keeps you moving forward with precision, because you are no longer distracted by what does not matter. You are locked in on what does, and that focus becomes your advantage. It becomes the reason you make progress while others stay stuck, because you are not pulled in different directions. You are moving in one direction with full commitment, full clarity, and full intensity, and that is the power of purpose-driven thinking. It transforms your mind into a tool of precision, a force of focus, a system that is designed to move you forward no matter what stands in your way. Because when your thoughts are aligned with your purpose, your actions become inevitable. Your progress becomes consistent, and your path becomes unstoppable. Resilience under pressure starts. Tease the moment you decide that difficulty will not define you, delay you, or destroy you, but instead refine you, strengthen you, and push you into a higher version of yourself. Because pressure is not an obstacle placed in your life to stop you. It is a force designed to reveal who you truly are when everything comfortable is stripped away. And most people break at that point. They retreat. They hesitate. They look for escape, because pressure exposes their limits. It magnifies their doubts. It amplifies their fears. But when you develop true resilience, you meet that pressure differently. You do not run from it. You do not complain about it. You stand in it with control, with focus, with a mindset that refuses to collapse, because you understand that pressure is temporary, but the strength you build from it is permanent, and that understanding changes your entire response. It shifts your perspective from resistance to acceptance, from fear to readiness, because you know that every challenge you face is training you, every obstacle is sharpening you, every moment of discomfort is expanding your capacity to handle more, to endure more, to become more. And this is where resilience is forged, not in ease, not in comfort, but in the moments where everything feels heavy, where progress feels slow, where the outcome is uncertain, and your mind begins to question whether you can continue. And in those moments you make a decision. You decide that stopping is not an option, that giving up is not a path you will take, that no matter how intense the pressure becomes, you will hold your ground and keep moving forward. Because resilience is not about never feeling the weight. It is about carrying that weight without losing direction. It is about continuing to act with purpose, even when your energy is low, even when your confidence is shaken, even when your environment is challenging, because resilience is built through consistency under stress, through repeated exposure to difficulty, where you choose to stand firm instead of folding, where you choose to push forward instead of stepping back. And every time you make that choice, you become stronger, you become more stable, you become more capable of handling even greater challenges, because your mind adapts, your tolerance increases, your ability to stay focused under pressure becomes sharper, and that is what separates those who succeed from those who stay stuck. It is not the absence of pressure, it is the ability to perform within it, to stay clear, to stay disciplined, to stay committed when everything around you is trying to pull you off course. And this level of resilience requires control. It requires that you manage your thoughts carefully. Because under pressure, your mind will try to create doubt. It will try to magnify problems. It will try to convince you that things are worse than they are. And if you allow those thoughts to take over, your performance will drop. Your focus will weaken. Your progress will slow. But resilience means you recognize those patterns and you interrupt them. You bring your attention back to what matters, to what you can control, to the next step you need to take. Because under pressure, you do not need to solve everything at once. You need to stay present. You need to stay engaged. You need to keep moving forward one step at a time with clarity and intention. And that steady movement builds momentum. It keeps you grounded. It prevents you from becoming overwhelmed, because you are not allowing the pressure to scatter your focus. You are using it to sharpen it, to narrow your attention to what is essential, to what will move you forward. And that level of focus under pressure is a skill. It is something you develop through repetition, through experience, through the willingness to face challenges instead of avoiding them. Because every time you step into pressure and handle it with control, you are training your mind to respond more effectively the next time. You are building confidence not from success alone, but from endurance, from the knowledge that you can handle difficulty without breaking. And that confidence is powerful because it removes fear. It removes hesitation. It allows you to approach challenges with a mindset that is prepared, that is steady, that is resilient. And as you continue to build this resilience, you begin to see pressure differently. You no longer see it as something negative. You see it as an opportunity, as a chance to test your strength, to expand your limits, to prove to yourself that you can handle more than you once believed. And that shift in perspective gives you an advantage, because while others are avoiding pressure, you are embracing it. While others are overwhelmed by it, you are growing through it. And that growth compounds over time. It builds a mindset that is unshakable, a mindset that does not panic, does not quit, does not lose direction when things get hard, because it has been conditioned to operate under stress, to stay focused, to stay disciplined, to stay committed regardless of the circumstances. And that is what makes resilience so powerful. It allows you to keep moving forward when others stop. It allows you to maintain progress when others fall back. It allows you to stay aligned with your goals, even in the most challenging situations, because you are not dependent on comfort. You are not reliant on ease. You are driven by something deeper, something stronger, something that does not break under pressure. And as you continue to strengthen that mindset, to expose yourself to challenges, to push through discomfort with control and intention, you build a level of resilience that becomes a core part of who you are, a strength that supports you in every area of your life, a foundation that keeps you steady no matter what you face, because you have trained yourself to endure, to adapt, to rise in the face of pressure, and continue moving forward with focus, determination, unwavering strength. Daily positive conditioning starts the moment you accept that your mind is programmable, and that every single day you are either strengthening it or weakening it through what you repeatedly think, say, and do, because your mindset is not formed in one powerful moment. It is built through consistent exposure to the same patterns over and over again. And most people allow that conditioning to happen by default. They wake up and immediately absorb negativity, distractions, doubts, and external noise without questioning it, without controlling it. And then they wonder why their focus is weak, why their energy is low, why their mindset feels unstable. But the truth is clear. Whatever you feed your mind consistently becomes your reality, and daily positive conditioning demands that you take control of that process with intention, with with discipline, with absolute awareness of what you are allowing into your mental space, because every input matters, every thought repeated becomes a belief, every belief reinforced becomes a behavior, and every behavior repeated shapes your results. And when you understand this chain, you realize that your life is being built daily from the inside out, and that gives you the power to change it. Because instead of waiting for motivation to appear, you create it through conditioning, you build it through repetition, through deliberate exposure to thoughts that strengthen you, that push you forward, that align with the person you are becoming. And this is not about blind positivity. It is about intentional focus. It is about choosing to direct your mind toward growth, toward solutions, toward possibilities, even when circumstances are challenging. Because your environment will not always support you, your mood will not always cooperate, but your conditioning can remain strong if you commit to it daily. And that commitment shows in your routines, in how you start your day, in how you manage your thoughts throughout the day, in how you respond to challenges, instead of reacting automatically. Because conditioning is not a one-time effort. It is a continuous process. It is something you reinforce again and again until it becomes automatic. Until positive thinking is no longer something you try to do. It becomes who you are. And that transformation happens through consistency, through the discipline of repeating empowering thoughts even when you do not feel like it, through the habit of focusing on solutions even when problems appear overwhelming, through the decision to speak strength into your life even when doubt tries to take over, because your mind listens to what you tell it repeatedly. And if you constantly reinforce weakness, it will accept that as truth. But if you consistently reinforce strength, confidence, and resilience, it will begin to operate from that place naturally. And this is where daily conditioning becomes powerful, because it rewires your default responses. It changes how you think under pressure, how you act in uncertainty, how you handle setbacks. Because instead of falling into negativity, your mind has been trained to search for growth, to look for opportunity, to stay aligned with progress. And that shift gives you an advantage that compounds over time, because while others are controlled by external circumstances, you are guided by internal conditioning. And that means your focus remains stable, your energy remains directed, your actions remain consistent regardless of what is happening around you. And that consistency builds momentum. It builds results. It builds a mindset that is resilient, disciplined, and unbreakable, because it has been trained daily to operate at that level. And this training requires effort. It requires awareness. It requires that you pay attention to your thoughts, that you catch negativity when it appears and replace it with something stronger, that you choose what you expose yourself to, that you limit influences that weaken your mindset and increase those that strengthen it. Because conditioning is influenced by repetition and environment. And when you control both, you accelerate your growth. You speed up your transformation. You create a mental environment that supports your goals instead of working against them. And as you continue this process day after day, you begin to notice changes. Your focus sharpens, your confidence increases, your resilience strengthens, and you become more in control of your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, because you have trained your mind to operate from a place of strength consistently. And that consistency becomes your foundation. It becomes the reason you can handle challenges without losing direction, the reason you can stay disciplined without constant motivation, the reason you can keep moving forward even when things are difficult, because your mind has been conditioned to do so. And that is the power of daily positive conditioning. It transforms your thinking from something reactive and unstable into something intentional and controlled, something that works for you instead of against you, something that pushes you forward instead of holding you back. And as you continue to reinforce this daily, to commit to it without interruption, without excuses, without hesitation, you build a mindset that is aligned with growth, aligned with strength, aligned with success, a mindset that operates with clarity, focus, and purpose every single day, creating progress, building momentum, and shaping a life that reflects the power of consistent, intentional, and disciplined thinking. This is where it all comes together, because an unbreakable positive mental attitude is not built in one moment. It is built in the choices you make every single day, in how you think when things go wrong, in how you respond when pressure rises, in how you lead yourself when no one is watching. And right now you have a decision to make. Not tomorrow, not later, but right now. Odysseus, on about who you are going to be when life tests you, when doubt shows up, when circumstances try to pull you in the opposite direction, because that is where your mindset is revealed, not in comfort, but in challenge, not in ease, but in resistance. And if you have truly understood what it means to take responsibility, to discipline your mind, to master your emotions, to think with purpose, to stay resilient under pressure, and to condition yourself daily for strength, then you already know that nothing outside of you has the power to stop you unless you give it permission. And that is the truth most people avoid. But you are not here to avoid it. You are here to own it, to step into it fully, to recognize that your thoughts are tools, your emotions are energy, your challenges are training, and your daily habits are shaping the life you are building, whether you realize it or not. And once you see that clearly, once you accept that fully, there is no turning back to weakness, no returning to excuses, no settling for less than what you are capable of, because you understand that every moment is an opportunity to rise, to become stronger, to move closer to the person you are meant to be. And that awareness changes everything. It sharpens your focus. It strengthens your discipline. It deepens your commitment. Because now you are not just existing, you are building, you are creating, you are moving with intention and purpose. And that is what makes you different. That is what sets you apart. Not luck, not circumstances, but mindset. A mindset that refuses to break, refuses to quit, refuses to be controlled by negativity or fear. And as you move forward from this moment, you carry that mindset with you into every situation, every challenge, every decision, and you do not wait for the perfect conditions. You create momentum with what you have. You stay focused on what matters. You keep your standards high and your vision clear, because you know that success is not a single event. It is a result of consistent, disciplined thinking and action over time, and that is exactly what you are committed to. No distractions, no excuses, no hesitation, just progress, just growth. Just the continuous decision to rise again and again, stronger, sharper, and more aligned than before, building a life that reflects the power of an unbreakable, positive mental attitude.